President Trump has a new plan to free up ships in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. will guide commercial ships out of the strait. The president's calling the effort Project Freedom. Retired four-star General Jack Keane joins me now. General, we've been asking if the U.S. has the military power to free the strait by ourselves. Do we have the power to do it, just us?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, no one else does either have the power. We're the one that does definitely have the power to do it. Probably the Israelis could do the same to some degree. So our audience understands this is a very comprehensive and somewhat complicated operation. We've already cleared a lane free of mines that's along the coast of Oman. So the furthest point away on the other side of the straits is where Iran is, and all the ships that have passed through have been passing through a lane that they established very close to the Iranian border of the straits. So that's step one, and that is already done. The other thing is we're going to put in a layered defense, scores of miles away from the Straits of Hormuz, with hundreds of surveillance drones as well as manned aircraft to intercept long-range drones, long-range missiles, anti-ship missiles that may be fired at distance to try to intervene with ships going through the straits. And then as you get to the straits themselves, we're establishing what we call a dome defense, and that is at the terminal point where ships would be and be at their most vulnerable as they're going through a narrow corridor that our audience has seen on a map many, many times. That dome defense will make certain that anything fired that penetrates through the layered defense will be defeated, that fast boats that come out and try to intervene will be defeated, that anything on the surface like a fast boat or actually below the surface will be defeated, that anything coming from the land, maybe a shoulder-fired missile or something like that, would be defeated. That's the dome defense. The other thing that's taken place, and it's been going on for a couple of weeks now, Stuart, is the CENTCOM leaders have been talking to ship owners, insurers, and also the captains of vessels, a few dozen of them, and telling them at some point, not disclosing when, or not disclosing how we're going to secure the straits, but telling them once we do secure the straits, we would be encouraging you to move through the straits unescorted. And they have said they would. We think we'll have everything established within 24, 48 hours. Remains to be seen what Iran does. I mean, they have a vote here, as always. They're going to intimidate and coerce these people not to move, or else you're going to be shot, for sure. Will they still move? Two, Iran will definitely, in our judgment, retaliate against what I just described to you. And if they're not able to penetrate, we think they will likely choose other things to retaliate against, like U.S. bases, allies and partners in the region, all the kinds of things they've been doing until the ceasefire.
So what do we do? I mean, if we get the strait open, and they retaliate, maybe attacking our bases, what do we do then?
We would open and return to combat operations.
Would that include knocking out the Revolutionary Guard? Decapitating the Guard?
We would do everything we can to decimate the IRGC. They're not just based in Tehran, they're based in every single province in Iran. We would likely go after a lot of their energy infrastructure. There's remaining ballistic missiles at storage sites and launchers that we have to kill. We have twice the combat power now in the region than we did when we started the war. The Israelis have always had more combat power than we did. They delivered 19,000 attacks up to ceasefire. We delivered 13,000 up to ceasefire. Now we're actually comparable. We can unload a devastating blow on the regime in the next 10 or so days, assuming the Iranians are going to break the ceasefire.
I sense there's coming some resolution here in a couple of weeks. I mean, 10 to 14 days. I sense that that's coming up, a resolution. Do you?
Yeah, that's a great point. One, give Trump credit for what he's doing here. They shut down the straits. Eventually, we put a blockade in that shut down 100% of their exports. Now, he's taken another aggressive action to open up the straits, and I think it's more likely than not that we will return to combat operations to finish these guys once and for all. One thing I think we have to do is make certain that our CIA and our Mossad have got plans, and they're working them right now, to undermine this regime covertly and also assist the Iranian people. Because as this thing starts to break apart, the vulnerability of the regime and its leaders and lack of trust in one another, we can take advantage of that and also encourage the Iranian people to get out there. And there's some that are under arms and are willing to fight. They are organizations, Kurds, Azaris, and Baluchis. There is no internal pressure on the regime right now, just external. If we increase the internal as well as the external pressure, that is the maximum point for them to have to cope with.
General, this is fascinating. I wish you could stick around all day, but we don't have the time. But come back and visit us soon, please.
You betcha.
Thanks
Love
much.
being here.
Thank you, General. Appreciate it.